Good morning, Saturday morning. You're tuned in, radio show, right? Hopefully everybody's got their coffee and everything. So we're going to go ahead and read your comments in no particular order again. We always try to make sure we tell you that if we don't read your comment, either you commented after the fact or your comment was pulled for whatever reason. So keep that in mind. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and go through the comments. We always appreciate the comments here on the Saturday morning show because it is part of it's actually the majority of the show. So, without your comments, it wouldn't be much of a show to be. So, anyway, here we go. Up first, we got Slimfire. Awesome collector's radio show. It's hard to believe some of the prices of all the guns in general. When we were buying them, 10, 20, 30 years ago, that's the way it is. That's the way it is today. Yeah, that is very true. Looking back, even for me, 15 years ago, it's changed so much. Prices have gotten so crazy. There's so many things that I could have bought that I, look back and say, man, maybe I should have got that. I don't know. All you can do is save up and look for a good deal, and that might come along. Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's all you really can do. I mean, hopefully something decent comes along. Unfortunately, that does get harder and harder. Sean, I like your top 5 horror list. Phantasm is such an underrated series. Yes, it is. I really do feel Phantasm was very underrated. It did not get the, I can only imagine what Don Coscarelli could have done with much larger budget. Although I like, part 5 was like part of the series and everything, but I couldn't help but just feel like if they had more money, what could they have done? Because you could tell they didn't have the budget. You could tell they just didn't have the backing. And, you could only imagine what they could have done with it. I'd probably have Jason in my top 5. Yeah, that was a hard choice. For me, it was hard because I do enjoy the Friday the 13th films. That was a hard choice because they are part of the whole, slasher crew. And, of course, Kane Hodder. Kane Hodder being also an island boy himself. I love the guy, and to me, Kane Hodder is always going to be Jason no matter what. And you know what, I'm going to say, I'll always say this. Again, I definitely made these comments before. Whoever it was that decided to cut Kane Hodder out of the Freddy versus Jason film, you ought to be fired and never be able to touch another film again. Whoever did that decision, that is a slap in the face to Kane Hodder. It's a slap in the face to the fans. It's a slap in the face to the franchise. You are absolutely just a wretched person. I mean that. That was horrible. You just don't do that. That was probably the worst decision ever. As far as Colt, you think CZ will get them back on track with better quality control, availability, and pricing? Quality control for Colt, I always said, Colt is... There was only one instance where I would say Colt dropped the ball for sure that I can remember. I wouldn't go as far as saying they have poor quality because I think, they still do really an excellent job of the bluing and everything like that for their firearms. And of course, when you look at the Python that's out there, that 2020 Python, regardless of what people want to say, that is so much better than their older Pythons. And most of the people that disagree with that are just upset because they can't gobble up more money off of their old ones that they used to be able to. They're not going to be able to get that $5,000 that they wanted for a handgun. The one thing I would say about their quality control that has slipped, which I don't like and didn't appreciate, which was the roll marks. When they decided to do this like etching, whatever that it wasn't an actual true roll mark on their 1911s that I noticed. I thought that was piss poor. I thought they definitely could have. That was terrible to me because a lot of us buy that stuff for their name and everything, and I thought that was kind of stupid. So, but as far as availability and pricing, absolutely. I hope that CZ launches them to better availability, more pricing. A lot of people are really like kind of like knocking the CZ thing going on, but also remember CZ also owns Dan Wesson, if I'm not mistaken. So think about that concept. Colt hasn't been Colt for a long time, if you really think about that. They really have just not been what they used to be, that's for sure. And actually, if you look into a lot of his history of their stuff, especially if you read the 100 Years book by Patrick Sweeney, highly recommend you look at that stuff and actually really read some of it, because also think this, they mentioned in that during the 70s, Colt was producing some pretty awful guns out there for the money that was going on. So, just there's so much things about that. Now, I would say this, if you take one of those guns by their standards by that day and bring it up to modern day today, those Series 70 guns are much better than what's out there in a sense. Now, I personally own one of the classics that they got out. I think it's a fantastic 1911, absolutely. So, yeah, I don't know. That's definitely a, you guys know me. You folks know I love Colt. I love the Colt 1911. It is such a classic and historical firearm. But there definitely yeah, there you could say that I wouldn't say I would disagree. Let's go back and just I'll say this. I wouldn't disagree with the quality control, because I hope that they would eliminate some of that stuff. And I gotta admit, the slide to frame. A lot of times Colts become rattle traps over time. So you consider that good or bad. I don't mind a little bit of movement in there because it helps reliability. But when it's literally so bad where you can take the gun and like grab the slide and you can see the slide lift up off the frame, that's pretty bad. All right, Beretta 9mm USA. Hey, you guys been MIA for a while. I'm glad you guys are back. So we got a comment from them. This was another terrific episode of Collectors Radio. Love the Freddy mug. Awesome. We've been getting a lot of love for the Freddy mug. I just came back from a 2-week mule deer hunt. Very happy to have internet connection again to be able to catch up on what we missed. I'm going to have to get a Colt 1911. I think you should. You should have two. They're small. I'll probably sell my SA35 and move on to the 01911C Classic Colt. Yep, you can't, young brother, you can't go wrong with that one. That's the one I got. I really like it. I've been enjoying it. I fired many rounds through it and still feel that the tolerances and the fit and finish is still top notch. I still think it's great. Definitely like the gun. I really enjoy it. So that of course, it's not a custom gun, but it's still it's that classic Colt, and I think it's just worth having for that. So do appreciate it. Good to hear from you guys. Glad you guys are back in there, back in the groove. Lion Quest Fitness. I like the look of that Mark II. I had a Mark III for about 2 days until I traded it back. It was a convoluted monster to disassemble. They are not easy to disassemble. It takes some getting used to and understanding there's a process of doing it, and if you screw that process up or skip a step or something like that, it can be a bear to do. There's, especially the Mark III. Now, I don't like the Mark III. I don't like the Mark III, and I certainly don't like the Mark IV. I like the Mark II or the Mark I, preferably the II, because it has the last shot of the bolt hold open. I like it also because it doesn't have the magazine disconnect. That does make it easier to take down and mess with and everything like that. Scotsman looks like he responded to that. Had more than one customer walk in with bag of parts and asking for someone to put it back together. But that is a gun that, if I'm not mistaken, if you do something wrong, there is a one mistake if you do make it with that. I think it's if you miss the strut that goes back into the mainspring bit on that. If you miss that or something like that, I think it's almost impossible to get that thing back apart. I think you have to send it back to Ruger. Crazy Scotsman also added, Colt is not the only one that does the buy-in programs. Actually, Glock was one of the first to introduce such programs. Nowadays, you see a lot of distributors requiring a certain amount in order to have an account. Unfortunately, as you stated, a lot of smaller brick and mortar small businesses cannot afford to do so. So most end up with credit accounts which in itself can be a bad thing. Yeah, you're right. I think Kimber is one of them, if I recall right. I think Kimber is another one that requires X amount of stuff to be bought by an FFL holder. KSFWG, as far as Colt, your feelings or opinion, you are right on target, my friend. Colt equals snafu. Colt has been owned by so many different parent companies, and every one of them has mismanaged the company. I agree, definitely. Joe, swig of coffee for Joe. Joe P is up here. Good morning. The two movies I always watch in October are The Exorcist and Reincantation of Peter Proud. Two movies that creep me out as a teen. They don't make them like that anymore. Yeah, The Exorcist holds up. The original Exorcist is just that movie just holds up without a doubt. The original Exorcist for sure. The remake is not the one that's out there right now. The Believer. I watched it. It was kind of like, I kept waiting. I don't know if it's maybe because I'm desensitized from watching so many of them, but I kept waiting for something to really scare you. And, for me, it just fell short of that. I don't know. Maybe it's just maybe it just played out too much, and that could be it too. Jeffrey Richardson, great stuff. Thanks. Oh, sip of coffee. Yes. Squib, 1911. 22 Blaster. I like the sound of that. Not a big fan of 22 LR. I like 22 LR because it's cheap to shoot, and I'm a cheap shooter. But you know what? I grew up with them, shooting them and all that. And actually, I have a 22 here to talk about a little bit. Also, the other thing, I brought out a couple things here. I got a couple knives here that was given to me by a near dear friend of mine that I had learned passed away, which is very sad because he's a very, very close friend of mine, individual, got me involved in the business, and much more than that. He did he had a great impact in my life, and these are some knives that he gave me. This one here is a Rough Rider, and he got it for me because of the you can see the handles on this, and you can tell why he got that for me. And it's man, that's unfortunate. It's got a little crack right there. I didn't notice that. It's starting to, but I've had it for years. But you know what? He got this for me. That's what it is for me. And he actually went in and actually did a sharpening job on it because this knife is really sharp. But he did that for me, and I keep this. This is definitely a near and dear knife for me. So I keep it kind of, a memento, especially now that my friend has passed, which is sad to hear because he was not very old. And I wish his son the best, and I hope you're taking care of yourself, and I'm very sorry, The other thing he gave me, or we did some trading, I believe, because I used to carry, when I met him, I carried a buck 110. That's what I was carrying. So he noticed that, and he said, I got a Ranger. And he got this, he gave this, or we traded. I traded him a knife that I had for this. And this is just basically the smaller buck knife. So that belonged to him, and I traded him for something, and I don't even remember what I traded him. But I got that, and that used to belong to him, original knife with the case that he had. So those are, that's why these two items are the thumbnail for the video, because this radio show I'm going to dedicate to my friend Ernie. So anyway, all right. The other thing that in light of my good friend that I lost, like I said, he kind of got me started in the gun biz, and he was there with me. He was instrumental in teaching me a lot of stuff. Working at the Sports Authority at the gun counter. That's where I really cut my teeth in all this. Speaking of 22s and everything, I used to always tell them, I kind of wanted this. I saw it at the time. I don't know if it was new at the time or what. Excuse me. But Henry had a 22 pump rifle. Really wanted it. And he kept giving me crap about it. He said, "Oh, you don't want." He goes, "That gun." He said, "That looks awful." He said, "It does. It looks like a gun that couldn't decide if it was a lever gun or a pump action gun." For some reason, he didn't like that gun. He kept telling me, "You got to get a gallery gun. You got to get a gallery gun. Get a Rossi. Get a Rossi." So, lo and behold, over time, I've had a lot of them. This is a Rossi. This one is actually, I think it's like stainless steel or nickel plated or something like that. I don't know. I just never seen one like this, so that's why I ended up with it. But yeah, and boy, he was right. These are fantastic. And you know what? Ever since I got my hands on them, throughout life, I've always had one now. And he said too, he said, "Man, he used to tell me that was the one gun that he sold that he always regretted that he sold." Quick story with him real quick before we get into the other piece that I got here to share with you. One of my fondest memories with him and really funny story was the way the counter was set up at Sports Authority. They had right on the side was the kind of the vault room. It was a little room that was a really secured room where they used to fill up the CO2 tanks, but in there was all the stock of rifles, shotguns, etc. That's where they kept it all. So he wanted to show me something. I forget what we were doing, but he wanted to show me something. So we went in there, and there's cameras all over, So he said, "Yeah, let me show you." So we went in there, and he was showing me something. We were laughing about it for whatever reason. So we get done with that, and we're still kind of giggling and chuckling to each other. And I go to open the door and step back out to the counter. I know this sounds real bad, right? But he goes, "Hang on a second." He goes, "Grab that 870." I said, "For what?" And I kid you not, this is what he told me. He said, "Because it doesn't look good. Two guys coming out of this room laughing with smiles on their faces." So I always laughed at that. Anyway, my friend, I rest in peace. You are very instrumental in a lot of things in my life, and you still have an impact, and you changed for a lot of things for me, and you were responsible for where I'm at today in this business. So I do appreciate it. I'll miss you. All right. Speaking of 1911s and 22s, I did the final work on this thing. This is my 22 1911. This is mine that I put together. I pretty much cobbled this thing together. This has got so many. This is the definition of Frankenstein. That's for sure. The cool thing about this 1911 is this. The only things, obviously minus the springs and the sear, the disconnector, the pins, the magazine release, that kind of stuff. The barrel and the hammer are the only things that are hardened steel. The slide is aluminum, the frame is aluminum, the grip safety is aluminum, the mainspring housing is polymer, aluminum trigger, lightweight. This thing weighs nothing. Nothing. It's awesome. It wields great. It just, and of course it being in 22, some of the reason for this is because I was a big fan of the Colt Ace. I really think that's a neat gun, just the way it is. Now, the whole thing for me, 22, is you want, when you're training or shooting with it, you want a little something to react to, I always felt like I wish they would just have something there. So by making this thing entirely lightweight like this, when you're shooting it, it does actually punch on you a little bit. You can feel it, especially if you're shooting CCI mini mags through this thing. Really has a nice feel to it. It was really hard to source the parts for this gun because this gun literally was bought in pieces, done in pieces. It started with my buddy having this top conversion unit here by Kimber. Kimber makes this top conversion unit. Reason why I like their conversion unit is because of the alloy slide. It's got a stainless barrel, and then also the polymer magazines, which also reduces a great deal of weight right there. That's the one thing about the Ace unit. Its downfall is the magazines. The magazines for that thing is the biggest downfall of that thing. But this thing is it started, you know, with me locating that conversion kit for my friend, buying it from him. The alloy frame is a Para Ordnance. I got that from Sarco or something. It was not easy to locate a aluminum grip safety. It had a hell of a time trying to find one of these. I started to think that nobody really made them. Maybe nobody really wants them, but I ended up finding it through Caspian. Caspian Arms manufactures these. They have a bunch of them. They're fairly cheap, $10. So ended up with that. That's really cool. I had to fit it myself and cut the frame. I did that by really without a jig, just kind of guessing it the old school way and did it. So this is a really cool 1911. I really enjoy this one. That's my my blaster in a sense, if you like that term, right? So, but yeah, that's the one I have the most fun with, and I usually take it out. And I gotta admit, I haven't cleaned it for a while, so I probably should. And it pretty much gobbles anything I throw at it, even bulk stuff, the big old bricks of stuff, and it just chews them up. And there you go. And then again, I kind of make it do that, so I just kind of forced it. There's a lot of other things I did when constructing it, putting it together, and I built it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this week's show. I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out. There is some other content in the can already. Those of you that are still here hanging out. By the way, I still have some videos that are yet to be published out on the channel, so look out for those, even though I'm not doing so much of it lately. But there is still a tabletop review of the Glock Gen 1 that we had, and featuring that and unboxing and looking at it, and also the an extended review of the Hackathorn Special Wilson Combat 1911, speaking of 1911. So keep an eye out for those videos. They should be coming around shortly here within the next couple of months, hopefully. We'll find the time to pop them in there and you'll see it. So again, I know I really have not been doing much in the video making, kind of step back from a lot of that, but these videos were already done in the can, and we just kind of, well, hopefully we'll get them out to you as soon as we can, and we'll figure it. So keep an eye out for those videos. Hopefully you enjoy them. I do appreciate all the support and the comments that you provide, so I do appreciate it. Like I said, without your comments we don't have much of a show, so thank you.